And next up, monetization is also about monetizing your app elsewhere. And we're going to hear a great talk. You built it, but no one comes. What your players hate, why your players hate your web store. And it's Miikka Luotio, if you come to the stage, VP Europe at Appcharge, and I will give the stage to you. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be in Helsinki. Great to see some familiar faces here. Huomenta, good morning, as we say in Finnish. So today, going to be talking about web stores and some reasons why your players might hate it, and some ideas how to make them hate your web stores less. Okay, so a few words about me. I see, like I said, some familiar faces. So some of you may already know me. I've been working in the mobile game industry for over 20 years now. I started at Digital Chocolate right here in Helsinki, working with various publishers like PopCap, Flare Games, Rovio, Vuga, list goes on. And just previously working at Exolla, and just before now starting for 1 year as the VP of Europe for Appcharge. Okay, so a brief introduction about the company I'm representing, Appcharge. So we're a direct-to-consumer platform specializing in working with mobile game publishers. And that's our focus. We cover a range of products, as you can see, from web store monetization, payments, and more. Working with some pretty good partners, awesome people, huge games, Product Madness, Superplay, and much more. I joined the company a year ago. Really fell in love with the team when I first met them because their background comes from making mobile games. Most of our product team being from our ex-Moon Active people, and I just felt at home right away when I met these guys because their background matches mine. So, and that was a beautiful start for the relationship. And just recently, we were voted as the best payment provider at Pocket Gamer Awards at Gamescom. So I hope that that says something about our methodology. Okay, so let's dive in. So web store expectations. So first of all, everybody is always touting big numbers, like you're looking at 30-40% incremental revenue, huge conversion rates. They would be seemingly achievable with web stores. But the truth is, it's a real journey to get there, and that's not going to be easy. These can be achieved and can be aspired to, but normally we see that it takes about anywhere for like over a year and a half to really get to the point where you're starting to see these numbers. So it takes a lot of iteration, a lot of trial and error. You need to be very data-driven and test a lot of stuff to really nail it. So you need to prepare for a journey. It's not going to be instantly you looking at these numbers. There has to be a lot of iteration in between releasing features into your web store. Okay, so what is the player journey actually for a web store? So some people might think, yeah, just go to a web page and buy stuff. Like that's simplifying it. But it's actually 4 different steps. So it starts with login, or how players get in order to authenticate their player account so they can actually buy stuff. And that's a big difference from when you're looking at mobile games where people are quite often already logged into the game because they installed the game and they're playing it, and they can buy stuff, right? I mean, the only thing they need to make sure they have an Apple account, which, obviously or Google account, they need to download the game. But in the case of web store, you need to be able to log in order to buy in the first place. And then when you enter the store, you kind of start seeing the offers, and that's what we would call like personalized view. So who you are as a player, what's your level, what's your spending level. So the store should really greet you based on your progress and stage on the game. And for the repeat journey, after you actually manage to buy something and you do a checkout, it's pretty much the same process. In many cases, obviously, the login is remembered by cookies in a browser, so you don't have to re-log in. But it pretty much is the same journey. So which part of your web store is actually broken? Let's look into that. So first of all, starting with the login. So the usual feelings that players when they actually get into the web store, because it's a new paradigm for a lot of players, and they're not used to this. So many of them are still kind of encountering this in their favorite games when they get into a web store first. So how the hell do I log in? This is a lot of effort. Like, it's going to be worth it if I log in and find my player ID and etc. So those are all valid questions that you need to realize your players are asking when they first come to the store. You have to authenticate, and that can be frustrating for a lot of players, depending on what the flow is going to be and how you're going to help them guide into the process of logging into the web store. Okay, so here's an example from one game called Mob Control, and this is pretty standard actually. This is a standard process. We see this a lot actually out there, and this is a very, I would say, the most common process of flow in terms of login that we see here. So for the first screen, you actually are told that you have to find your user ID as a player. Like, what is a user ID? Many players don't even know that they have such a thing. In a lot of games, they don't have email accounts. They're not like asked to log in that sense. So, and as the next step, you actually you're told that you have to go to the game. So you go open the game, and inside the game, obviously you won't see your ID right away because your ID obviously usually isn't actually your player name. It is actually a code string. So as in the next screen here, you can see that you have like this tiny little code string here that you have to copy paste into the website to log in. Now, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say that that's gonna churn out most of your players even before they get to buy anything. I mean, that's not ideal, right? But the truth is, most of the authentication and login methods on the web stores that we see is pretty much this. So there clearly is room to improve. Another example, login done better, and this is just one example, Supercell, but there's many other publishers out there that do similar, that they have basically their publisher ID, so players are required to create their account essentially across multiple games. So when you have the capability to do this, you can kind of shorten it to 4 steps really. So the first step being you go into the store, and essentially you have a 2-factor verification where you actually get a code sent to your email. So you have to go to your email, you copy the code, and boom, you're shopping. So this is better. But what we've actually done recently at Appcharge with a couple of our partners that I mentioned earlier is that we found a way to reduce that to 2 steps. And this is a little bit of a tease, but if you want to know more about it, you have to come to me because this is like early information, and we're happy to share in a private meeting. But come talk to me later about that. But we managed to reduce it for 2 steps. So that's pretty exciting. Okay. So personalization. In terms of personalization, one of the most important things is for the players' feeling. When they go into the store, how do they feel? Do they feel that they're like a very high-level player? Do they get this feeling that they're catered like a VIP? Are they catered for their level of progress? Because if they see like basic offers like $0.99, $1.99 offers, like that's not going to interest your like high-level players that are spending a lot already in your game. So, where's the added value? Why are these prices not in my currencies also a big factor? Because if you have to do the currency conversion math, that's not ideal as a player, because really you should do that on behalf of them, so they don't have to figure out euros to dollars and Canadian dollars to US dollars and etc. That's not fun at all. So personalization done right really gives you the feeling that your status and progress within the game as a player is recognized, and that your local currency that you're from, the country that you're from, and where you're comfortable spending, is immediately shown in the screen. So it feels like it's not disconnected from the experience that you have in the game. So it's very connected, and this is something that when you've done it right, we've seen as much as 20% revenue increase with some of our partners. So it's by far the most impactful feature. Yet, at its best, feels invisible because it just feels natural to the player, right? So that's something that needs to be stated, that it's one of the key factors in driving revenue for the web stores, what we are seeing. And it essentially should be part of your minimum viable product for the web store. Okay, so let's talk about your D2C meta game. I'm actually coining this term myself. It's not a familiar term yet. But really, the main motivation here from players having problems with your web store would be they find it simply boring. Like, boring. This doesn't feel or look like the game that I'm playing at all. Why would I even buy from here? And what's the challenge? What's the goal? There's nothing for me to solve as a player here, and no reward for solving that. So why am I like? What's in it for me? What's the fun here? So just displaying your offers is really obviously the basis of a web store, because that's the essence of it. But it should be the extension of your meta game. It should be the extension of the fun that your players are having in your game. So when they enter the store, they feel that this is a place where I can continue to have fun, and I will have mechanics there as well, that it's not just boring. So how to do this right? I mean, obviously the best web stores we've seen, they give players clear goals and challenges. So some of the examples that we've seen and we're working with, and many publishers are doing, and some of them more successful than others, range from anything from daily bonus. So when you get to the web store, you always get something for free, like a little reward, to reward you from going there in the first place and coming back. Obviously, a progress bar that rewards you with something the more you purchase things there. So it's almost like if you have your core gameplay, you have your meta game, if you start thinking your direct-to-consumer or your web store as the third layer of that experience for the players, that's when you're really getting into the zone where you're entertaining your players, even outside of the game. And I think that's really vital for success. So one of the interesting examples that I just wanted to highlight, Supercell in their store, they just kind of did a preview of an upcoming character. So they were drawing attention from the players to go to the store and get notified for accessing this character kind of early in a sense. So it's store exclusive experience, not necessarily exclusive content, but you feel that you get that experience when you enter the store. Yeah, so that's interesting, and I think those are interesting things to experiment, and I can see a lot of publishers going more into that dimension. So they're adding content also as a part of that experience. So lastly, one of the number 4 reason, your players not trusting the checkout and the purchase experience. And this is important because it has to do with the fact of your players obviously not finding their favorite payment method from the checkout page instantly because they're comfortable buying in things like Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, credit cards. That's like they're comfortable using something, they want to see it, or Klarna, I don't know, or something that's familiar and local to them. So you should always obviously offer that. And then obviously there's the age-old, nobody likes to put their credit card information again somewhere. So that's something, if you can streamline that or offer options that are faster, that's going to help you a lot. And then ultimately this feeling of who am I really buying this stuff from? So it should really feel that the player, in spite of using another merchant of record or something like that, where the player is technically actually buying the item from, but it should really feel that the brand trust is the game publisher, the developer of the game. It should feel that it is you as a player, you're buying it directly from the publisher, because that is the trusted relationship you wanna foster. You don't want to introduce another company there and say like, trust these guys instead. They're doing payments for us. You should really put your brand there in the front, your customer support in the front, and work with a payments company who can really white label that for you. And that's really important, creating a long-term trust in terms of the payments. Okay, so key takeaways. So in terms of login, login can be as large impact as 10% in the revenue. Obviously, it's immeasurable. If your players can't find their ID, you're going to lose most of them. So you really should make sure that your whole funnel isn't broken from the top, and that's where the login needs to be. Ideally, no credentials needed. That you could authenticate in a way that is either through social media and other interesting, innovative ways to reduce it to just a couple steps. So personalization, like I said, amounts to the largest amount of the revenue increase and improvement that you can see if you introduce personalization into your web store. That's upwards of 25%. So segmentation being the biggest modifier for success in web stores. And there's a little typo. D2C meta game, 20% revenue increase. So if you really make your store fun, I think that really makes a huge difference. And it's not like a rocket science. If your players are still having fun when they leave the game and they're buying things and they're trying to achieve things, you're introducing those goals, you're introducing challenge for them to solve, they're going to have more fun. And then finally, to improve conversion, you need to reinforce that trust that your players have on the brand. And that's it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take any. Thank you.
Yeah, or obviously catch up with you to get that tip about how to remove friction from the journey. That's exciting. We are running a little bit behind, but we could take one very, very quick question. If we have one quick question for Miikka. We have one quick question in the back.
Thank you, Miikka. This was amazing, super insightful. I have a quick one. In order to personalize offers to so many players, do you have to pre-design, pre-compile the product feeds super huge, or how does it being created, like randomized? Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah, so just to answer simply, like most mobile games, at least at a scale, tend to have some sort of segmentation already built in, free-to-play especially. And if you're looking at a web store as another output of that, I would say there's two choices. You find a partner who supports pulling your segments with an API. That's going to make it easy so you don't have to redo your segments. That you can just display different offers for them on the web store, but use the existing segments you already configured. Or then you do it yourself. So I would say that's like the choice you have to do as a publisher when you're building web stores.
Excellent. And they can, of course, ask you. You're going to be around during the breaks, Miikka?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yes, get in touch with him. He does have the secrets, those tips of how to take 2 steps out of the journey that's very important. So thanks again
Thank you.
to our speaker.